What's good, everybody? It's the Clown with Cap Show. The college football playoff is set. I'm so excited. A lot of people are really pissed off because Florida State did not get in. Florida State went 13-0, won the ACC championship. You would think that they would get in. I think them losing their star quarterback, Jordan Travis, out for the season, I think that it had something to do with it. You know, the past two games we saw Florida State really struggling. They're just not the same team. It's like saying the Kansas City Chiefs are going to go to the Super Bowl without Patrick Mahomes. It's just not going to happen. So I think the NCAA, the committee, did the right thing, even though a lot of people are mad about it. But let's be honest here. Alabama would run right through Florida State. Alabama would run right through Washington. They just would. They just play in a better conference. The SEC is the toughest conference in college football. A lot of people want to badmouth it and say, no, they don't. You know, Ole Miss isn't good this year, only Georgia and Bama. But at the end of the day, they're the cream of the crop. And Alabama deserved to get number 4. We have Texas in at number 3. They're 12-1. They won the Big 12 championship. Number 2, Washington. They won the Pac-12, which I'm really not surprised about Washington. They played a junior varsity league. I mean, they're playing teams like Arizona State, Arizona, Utah, teams that are really pretty good, but they're not like SEC caliber. They're not like playing the Georgia Bulldogs where they go on a 29-game winning streak. That's why Bama's in it right now. That's why they got in at number 4, because they beat Georgia, who won 29 in a row, who was looking for a three-peat at a national championship. So, obviously they're going to put Bama in, which they should. And head coach Nick Saban, one of the greatest college football coaches of all time, is looking for his 8th championship. His 8th. He won one at LSU before he came to Bama and started the dynasty. Ever since 2009, when he played Texas, who they could get a rematch, they played Texas in 2009 and won. And that was his first championship with Alabama under Nick Saban. So Saban, he started this dynasty. He's the cream of the crop. A lot of people hate it, but right now they deserved it. And really what's huge and surprising for me is Michigan right now, right? Michigan 13-0, winning the the Big 10 championship in Indy. They deserved it, but seeing the reaction of Michigan playing Bama is kind of like, oh shoot, they'd rather play Florida State. Let's be honest here. Every Michigan fan, every Michigan player wanted to play Florida State. When they found out that they were playing Alabama, they're like, oh crap, oh shoot, this is not good. This is not good. And I think they're starting to realize, hey, Alabama is cream of the crop. Alabama can stop the run. They held Georgia to 78 yards rushing in the SEC championship game. That's one of the best run games in the country. And so Alabama's going to be tested. Now, I think that the star players for Alabama is definitely the quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. He's having a great season this year under Jim Harbaugh. All the allegations, all the stuff that happened to Michigan, all the adversity they had to deal with, really boils down to this game. And I think it's going to be a classic matchup. The number 1, number 2, most winningest programs in D1 college football history in Michigan and Alabama, dude. These are the cream of the crop here. So it really wasn't that hard to decide that, hey, Florida State just doesn't deserve it right now. On paper, they barely beat Louisville. The quarterback did not look good. I think they're on a third-string quarterback. And a lot of people want to bring up the 2014 Ohio State team who started a third-string quarterback, ended up winning a national championship that year. Well, a lot of people forgot, Cardale Jones, he won, the Big Ten championship. That game, he threw for 3 or 4 touchdown passes, went crazy. So obviously they're going to put Ohio State in at number 4. Now Florida State did that against Louisville this past weekend. Then they would have put Florida State in. But they just did not look good. They just didn't, and I think that's why they put in Bama. But as far as Michigan goes, you got Blake Corum, one of the best running backs in the country, over 1,000 yards rushing this year with 24 touchdowns. And then you got Roman Wilson, the star-studded receiver for Michigan, 662 yards receiving and 11 touchdowns this year, straight balling out. I just think for Michigan, man, you're playing the real deal here now. You're playing Alabama. You guys need to embrace this. Big Ten traditionally isn't really successful against teams like Alabama and Georgia. Let's just be honest here. We're just not. The Big Ten, even though we're getting better each and every year, I think, what's really going to win the battles here is in the trenches. And Michigan always has a great offensive line and a great defensive line. My thing is with Michigan is you're going to have to stop Alabama. You're going to have to stop Jalen Milroe. You're just going to have to. I mean, Jalen Milroe, he really, ever since they lost to Texas in week 2 by 10, they really come around late. They won 11 straight. Alabama's on a roll right now, roll tide. This matchup is going to be the best matchup on all the bowls right now. It's definitely Michigan versus Bama, dude. The Rose Bowl, I love it, dude. It's great for college football. You know, a lot of people don't like that, but, you know, at the end of the day, man, this is the cream of the crop. And I'm telling you what, Michigan players did not want to see Bama. They just did it. We saw the reaction, and the whole room was like, oh, and then they started clapping, but deep down they're thinking, crap, dude. Like, we got to go through Bama here. Like, Bama, every year they're great, dude. Like, they lost 2 games last year, and they were saying, oh, the dynasty's over. Like, them losing just 2 games in the SEC. Like, that's how great Coach Nick Saban in Alabama is. That dynasty is just so good, dude. Like, I'm telling you, but Michigan, what are the chances? Obviously, they're favorites right now by 1.5 points, which they should be. They won the Big Ten. They beat Ohio State 3 times in a row. Like, they should be. They're the team right now to beat. J.J. McCarthy's looking nice. Jim Harbaugh, all the allegations. They are coming in hungry to this game, but they're coming in against Alabama. I'm quite sure, I believe that Michigan much rather play a team like Washington or Florida State. They much rather play them. They don't want to play Bama. They just don't, dude. Who wants to play Bama the first round of the playoffs in college football? They just don't. But I think college football is going in the right direction. Starting next year, they're going to go to a 12-team playoff, which I think is the right move. I mean, this year would be great for the 12-team playoff, right? We would see Georgia and Florida State, even though they're matching up against each other in a bowl game at the end of this year. You know, just really some good things, but a 12-team playoff is great for college football, and they're going to that next year. I can't wait. I just wish it was this year, but Michigan, they have a true test here, and Jim Harbaugh understands, hey, we haven't been good. You know, we lost to Georgia a couple years ago, really relatively got blown out. I think the score at halftime was like 27-3. So, like, you know, for Michigan, they got a long time to prepare for this game. So does Coach Nick Saban, though. That's the thing. If I were to take a team right now between the Michigan and Alabama, just looking out on eye test, you know, I'm just going to bet with my head on this one and go Bama. I'm just going to go Bama. They just have better athletes. Alabama always has better running backs than anybody in the country. They always had the best defensive linemen. They just traditionally always have the best at the star positions, the best receivers. You know, one of the best, quarterbacks in the country that can run and throw, and Jalen Milroe. So there's so much you could do, but I can't wait for this matchup. Jim Harbaugh, Michigan, man, they have a true test ahead of them, dude. They're finally playing someone legit. And we look at Michigan's schedule this year, and really it wasn't that hard, dude. Like, they're playing teams like Illinois, you know, Minnesota, Iowa for the Big Ten championship. You know, Alabama had to play Georgia, who won 29 games in a row, dude. Like that. There's a huge difference between Iowa and Georgia is what I'm getting at here. Huge difference, huge levels of this. So I think Michigan, man, they're really, obviously they're not going to be underdog right now. Why would they? You know what I'm saying? Winning the Big Ten, you know, undefeated, you know, beating Ohio State in a close game. But I'm telling you, Michigan has their hands full. But right now, probably leaning more towards Bama. Then we got number 2 in college football playoff, the Washington Huskies, man, 13-0, won the Pac-12. Shout out to Michael Penix Jr. I think he's the it factor. He went to IU at one point, I think just for a year. But Michael Penix Jr., over 4,200 yards passing with 33 touchdowns and 9 picks, dude. So it's all Michael Penix Jr. He's their star guy. He's a lefty. He's their decision maker, and he's their playmaker. I love this kid. He can run. He can throw. Then you got Dylan Johnson, 1,113 yards rushing and 14 touchdowns for the Huskies. You know, I'm telling you, Washington, they got a great run game and a throwing game. They could score on anybody. They have a great offense. My thing is with Washington is, do you guys have a legit defense? Can you guys stop a team like Alabama or Michigan? Can you guys stop a team like who you're going to get matched up against in Texas Longhorns? Can you guys make big stops? That's the thing, because the Pac-12 traditionally doesn't have a great defense. They always have great offenses. I'll give them that. They can score on anybody. They can put up points. But at the end of the day, the old cliche is defense wins championships, and it does. So I'm looking at Washington and saying they just really don't have a good defense. I mean, they barely beat Arizona, Oregon State, and Utah. And their biggest wins were against Oregon twice, who has no defense, and USC, who has no defense. So, you know, the whole Pac-12 really doesn't have a good defense. So, yes, Washington, they have a shot here. They do. You know, they have some star players, absolutely, playmakers that can change the game, like Michael Penix Jr. But overall, you know, Washington, I just don't see him beating Texas. I just don't. I think Texas coming in at number 3. They're favored against Washington already. He's 12-1, won the Big 12 champion the last time since 2009. We remember that, right? You know, and I think 2009, they lost to Alabama in the national championship that year. The same year they won the Big 12. So can we get a rematch of that? Can we see Texas and Bama in the national championship? That would be amazing, right? But, Texas Longhorns, they're legit. With Quinn Ewers, their star quarterback, in the Big 12 championship, he went 35 for 46 for 452 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. He tied the Big 12 championship record. That's crazy, dude. This guy, Quinn, he's a playmaker. He's great at decision-making down the field. He throws in between zone coverages. He's just a good quarterback all around, man. So for this year, he had a really great season. Over 3,100 yards passing with 21 touchdowns and only 6 picks. So Texas is going to be in there. I think they're going to make it to the championship. And I thought when they beat Bama in week 2, I was like, you know what, Texas, I'm telling you, they're probably going to go to the national championship. I just saw it, man. They had huge tight ends, huge receivers, great defense. I'm telling you, just all around good football program in Texas. And college football is better when Texas Longhorns are great. Texas hasn't won a national championship since 2006 when they beat USC. We remember that game, with against Reggie Bush, who scored that touchdown late. And the rest of the century, Vince Young ended up scoring the game-winning touchdown, to get Texas Longhorns a national championship. But that was the last time. So I think Texas, they are hungry. They're coming in. You got Jonathan Brooks, their star running back, 1,139 yards rushing and 10 tutties. And their biggest game, like I said, is at Bama in Tuscaloosa week 2 in Kansas State. That enough should definitely punch their ticket, which they did. They're the 3rd seed. So if you're Texas right now, you were just the 7th seed last week. You guys won the Big 12 championship. You punch your ticket into the college football playoff. You're happy. If you're Texas and all the Texas players, the coaching staff, you guys are all just on your high horse right now saying, hey, it's us against the world right now. Against all odds, we're playing Washington Huskies, who really don't have a good defense. They have no lockdown defense. They give up big plays after big plays. So Texas is going to run right through Washington. That's my prediction already, and we're still about 3 weeks out of these games. So, I definitely love Texas, man. I really do. Take off Texas Longhorns, and like I said, number 4, Roll Tide, roll Alabama, the cream of the crop. Nick Saban looking for his 8th national championship. He's just he's one of the greatest coaches of all time. Not just in college football, but football, period, dude. He's good friends with Bill Belichick. I'm sure he learns a lot from Big Bill. But, overall, man, I'm telling you, Alabama, dude, they're that team. Georgia's never beat Alabama in the SEC championship game. And I'm telling you, they got star players. Jermaine Burton, 777 yards receiving, 8 touchdowns for Bama. They got him, Milroe. He's got 12 rushing touchdowns at quarterback. I'm telling you right now, Michigan, they did not want to play Bama. They just did it, bro. You could just kind of feel the whole atmosphere of that room when they found out that, hey, they are playing Alabama. It's going to be a tough test, and I'm telling you, Alabama's the cream of the crop. It's going to be Alabama versus Texas in the national championship. That's my prediction. I can't wait for that. I just can't. I think it's great for college football. Now, on the flip side, we got Georgia versus Florida State in the Capital One Orange Bowl. For Georgia, obviously, you've won 29 in a row. You just lost to Bama in the SEC championship game. It sucks for them. Head coach Kirby Smart realizes, hey, this is college football. You got to win every single game, and the last game typically is the most important game, and they lost that game only by 3. But, it's a game of inches. But for Florida State, I feel sorry for them. I really do. Going 13-0, winning the ACC championship game, dominating all these type of teams, beating Clemson, going on the road, beating some good teams, relatively good teams for Florida State, but just the committee saw, hey, Jordan Travis got hurt. They're just not the same team anymore. And they said, hey, we're going to make the decision to say Alabama's in and Florida State's out. It's just, yes, they went on the road and beat Florida Gators in the Swamp. That was another great win, but Florida this year is not that good. So, same thing with Clemson. Clemson's not even a top 10 team. Now, if these teams, Florida and Clemson, were in the top 10, I think Florida State would have got in there regardless right now, if they're in the top 10 right now, but they're not. But, Georgia, I'm leaning more towards Georgia in that matchup, but I just, it just is what it is, man. That's just part of life. That's all I can say about Florida State. It's just part of life. You're not always going to get the fair side. You're not going to get the fair trade. It's just life happens, and sometimes life isn't fair. So, and for Florida State, on the flip side for Florida State is you guys go into this offseason, get a lot of your players are coming back. For next year's a 12-team playoff. So you guys, if you guys end up winning out like you did this year, obviously you're going to get in next year. So for Florida State, have that chip on your shoulder, next year of getting into the playoff, into the 12-team playoff. So I think for Florida State, I kind of feel bad for them, but at the same time, Georgia's the cream of the, or excuse me, Bama's the cream of the crop. They just are, man. They're the dynasty, dude. They've won so many national championships since 2009. It's insane, dude. And we see some of these teams win here and there, like Clemson and Georgia winning too. Come on, dude. Nick Saban's got way more than you guys. There's a reason for that. So he's in. And then I got my Notre Dame Fighting Irish playing against Oregon State. You know, Notre Dame finished the season out 9-3. And ever since Notre Dame lost to Ohio State, I kind of was upset, obviously. I was heartbroken. I wanted to cry. I didn't want to watch college football anymore because, you know, quite frankly, I thought Notre Dame could potentially make the college football playoff this year. You know, they would probably be a Michigan spot right now if they just ended up winning the whole schedule out and playing in a non-conference, you know, championship game. They would not have that, but still, they'd be in the top 4 if Notre Dame won it out, but they didn't. They blew it to Ohio State. They had that game won. They lost to Louisville at Louisville, which was a heartbreaking loss, and they lost to Clemson at Clemson. So for Notre Dame right now and head coach Marcus Smart, there definitely is a lot to work on, but what am I going to take from this year is Notre Dame is one quarterback away from making it back to the college football playoff, to making it to the national championship, to getting over that hump, to bringing a national championship to South Bend since Lou Holtz, since 1988. So, like, for Notre Dame, there is a lot to work on, but there's still some relatively great news for Notre Dame. We're getting better recruits coming in. We're getting better talent coming in. And like I said, we're just one quarterback away. So Marcus Freeman and those guys, we're going to lose Estime. I think Estime is going to go to the NFL draft. I think Estime really is a top 10 NFL draft pick. I mean, this guy, he's a great running back. I could see him playing on a team like the Baltimore Ravens, the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, those type of teams, because Estime, he's not just a back that's going to run you over. He also has skates. He can take off on you as well. He's strong. I'm telling you, Aldrich Estime is going to be a first-round draft pick. Mark my words. So, for Notre Dame, the future's bright there. You know, I'm just devastated this year losing to Ohio State at home the way we lost to them, but it just is what it is. But my Notre Dame Fighting Irish and Marcus Smart have a bright future ahead of them. I can't wait to see what happens with that. But as far as the top 4 college football playoff go, man, I love it. We got Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Bama. I love it, dude. Michigan, I'm telling you, they got their hands full against Bama. I just think right now, Michigan understands that J.J. McCarthy understands that, hey, you're not playing against Iowa anymore. You're not playing against Minnesota, some of these bad Big Ten teams, you know, the back end of the Big Ten. I understand you did beat Penn State. That's a great win. And you beat Ohio State. That's a great win. But that's it. You beat 2 good teams all season, Michigan. That's it. Like, I'm just calling a spade a spade. We're not saying, you know, Iowa's a good win because it's not, dude. Iowa would really be on the back end of the SEC. They just really would. Old Miss would beat Iowa, those type of teams. So I just think right now, Michigan, dude, playing teams like Maryland, you know, I mean, they beat Ohio State, Penn State. That's it, dude. Like, that's the cream of the crop. Ohio State, I'll give you that. Ohio State, you guys beat them 3 times, but I just think overall, Michigan, man, they're going to hit reality here. Head coach Nick Saban, Alabama's going to wake Michigan up, and I think Alabama's going to beat Michigan by 10-plus points. I just see it right now. Why am I saying this? Because Michigan, we just go back a couple years ago. They played Georgia in the college football playoff. They get blown out. They get embarrassed. You know, and it's just one of those things where it's like, how, Michigan? How are you guys losing to these big games? And you guys think you're losing to Georgia? You know, look at Bama right now. They're a powerhouse, dude. You know, Nick Saban looking for his 8th national championship. 8th. Jim Harbaugh's looking for his 1st. You know, Jim Harbaugh lost to his brother in the Super Bowl, you know, against the Baltimore Ravens, and it came down to one play. One play, and it came down to. So Jim Harbaugh has dealt with some heartbreaks throughout his coaching career. Losing to his brother in the Super Bowl in 2013. You know, losing to big games, like I said, against Georgia. You know, losing to TCU last year. Like, what? TCU's going to beat you guys, Michigan? So I think Michigan's going to get ran through. I really do. But I will tell you, I love Blake Corum. I think Blake Corum's going to be that it factor. Blake Corum's going to be the only reason Michigan's going to be in this game. I don't think it's going to be because of J.J. McCarthy. I think it's Blake Corum. That run game for Michigan, they have to stick with it. They have to be able to run the ball against Bama, because if they don't run the ball well against Bama, it's going to be a long, long day, and I think Bama's going to win that game. I really do, but the college football playoff is 3 weeks away. That's why I love why the committee's going to this 12-team playoff. You know, instead of having 3.5 weeks off, you know, this 12-team playoff, we'd have games in between these 3 weeks right here, leading up to the national championship. So I think college football is moving in the right direction, similar to like NCAA basketball, right? Even though they have like 68 games, but I think a 12-team playoff for college football is great, dude. I really do, and it wouldn't have all this time gap for 3.5 weeks till, like, the main games are coming on. You know, the top 4 games that are coming on. So I can't wait, man. College football is here. We got Michigan versus Bama, Washington versus Texas Longhorns. Let's go. It's the Clouded with Cap Show.